Good evening and welcome to the December 11th, 2013 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First on the agenda are minutes of November 15.
Madam Chairman, the November 15th and November 19th minutes will be carried over into next week.
Okay.
Those are those two morning meetings, and we just have to have Melanie write.
Have it written up, all right. I mean,
I
have
the
her
notes,
put your notes put
notes
into,
on
right.
the agenda.
Okay, December 4th. I read the 4th, and I didn't have any comments.
I likewise gave them a review and moved to accept them.
Okay, you had a second and a move.
Second, yeah.
A second before the move came. You got that? All right. We have a motion on the table to accept the minutes of December 4th as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request for a determination of applicability. Anthony Eacock, 47 Point Road, Falmouth, for permission to construct a second-story deck onto an existing house. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, we reviewed the project, and we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, which if any of you are here for an RDA or listening, means you're going to be able to go ahead with your work. Are there any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First one is WLJ Nominee Trust, Peter R. Fenn, trustee, 43 Church Street, Woods Hole, for permission to repair and maintain the existing licensed concrete pier and revetment, remove existing concrete ramp, and the construction of stone steps.
I'm going to recuse myself, Madam Chair.
Okay, did you get that? Jen, any questions?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll save any of my comments until after Mr. McGrath's presentation.
Good evening, Mike.
Can I have that clip?
Would you like?
Do you want to give them to me and I'll pass them out? Thank you.
My name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor. I work for Holmes McGrath. My firm prepared the plans and filed the notice of intent. 43 Church Street is in the vicinity of the Church of the Messiah. It's across the street. There's a parcel of land that contains, or used to contain, a significant house that's been torn down. And on the waterfront, there is an existing solid fill concrete and stone pier. It has 2 licenses. It was originally constructed in 1905. On the inland, there's a boathouse, a cottage, and there'll be a new structure at the site of what used to be Jeff Whitney's old house. The proposed work, I've given you copies of these colored plans on 11 by 17. And what they're basically going to do is, if you've been to the site, there is a concrete walk and there's a concrete boat ramp. And what they propose to do is actually remove the remnants of the concrete walk. It's all broken up there, and take the riprap and move it back so that the top of the riprap is consistent with the back of the concrete walk is. And what I've tried to do is show you that there'll be an increase in the beach at this area. So that's one portion of the work. The other thing that we're proposing to do is to fix and repair the solid fill pier. And what I've done is I've drawn some sections of the solid fill pier. This is the end of the solid fill pier, and if you've been to the site and you look, there's a crack. And if you look close, this is actually settled. And if you climb underneath here, you could look underneath, and there's a huge void underneath this end of the solid fill pier. So what we're doing is we're going to remove, we've drawn a line on there where we're going to do a saw cut through the thick concrete deck. We're going to remove and dispose of the concrete. We're going to fill this with a combination of stones and concrete. Then, for the rest of the pier, we're going to occasionally drill holes and pour in a flowable fill mixture. This is the same, we did the same repair on the budding pier at 55 Church Street, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. Along the side of the pier, the solid fill pier, there is riprap that we're going to put in a few new or replace armor stones here. This is going to be completely reconstructed at the landward end. And then when we do this work, we're actually going to repair the vertical walls. There's gaps. So we're going to remove and reset as many of these as we can. And when we do that, we'll have to pull the riprap out, and then we'll put the riprap back in place. So this is basically, a substantial repair of an existing structure, but I think it needs to be done. I think removing the riprap and moving it back and removing the boat ramp is positive too, because we'll create a slightly larger beach. Are there any specific questions I can answer?
Jen?
No, right now, that's
Court?
I was down there today, the wind was blowing pretty hard out of the whatever direction it comes from there, but was going right up against that ramp. And so essentially that one section of where you're gonna be doing your repairs really gets battered. Is by putting a beach there, is that gonna be a real thing, or is it anything you put in there like just gonna go away the first time we have a hard wind or a storm?
When we look at what's on the ground, that concrete walk has been broken for a very long time, and it didn't seem appropriate to this owner to put the concrete walk back in place. He chose to move the riprap back, and so we're creating the beach. Will it last? I don't know. It is a very high velocity area.
I mean, the pier that you've got, or the ramp that's there actually helps to, as a buffer as it is now. I'm just wondering whether how stable that'll be once you take that out. But you guys know what you're doing, I don't.
Well, he actually used the ramp to launch a whaler, but now there's a brand new mooring out there, so he can't use it. So he also has children. He has 3 small children, and he wants to get that fixed, and he wanted to take the ramp out. I saw no reason not to take it out.
No, I mean, I was just concerned about whether or not by taking it out, you were going to open that sort of up for more exposed damage going forward. But, I guess if you rebuild that wall right, it'll be fine. I mean, the project's fine. I mean, I don't have any objection. I'm just asking the questions out of curiosity. That's it.
Okay, Tommy?
No questions.
Mike?
When you're when you're grouting on the east side of this thing, what precautions are you going to take to be sure that we're not dumping concrete into the harbor? You really don't know where it's going.
All I can tell you is that when we did it here, it didn't come out. We could make sure it's grouted first, We did show that this would be regrouted in places. So if the edges are solid and we do put in flowable fill, it won't come out.
You think? I guess my only request is that we'll be asking for observations while you're grouting, just in case the stuff is disappearing.
That's an appropriate condition. It's also appropriate to specify that we grout this and repoint this edge first.
First.
Yes.
Fine. I like the suggestion, thank you. No questions?
Maybe we'll have you give us a methodology specifying that. That will be part of the order of conditions.
Yes.
You wouldn't want all that grout to fill Little Harbor.
Be a hell of a lot of grout.
It would be a lot of grout.
It's the same concerns that the Associates Road Pier line and stuff.
I understand.
Yeah.
This is not, this end is bad, but this end doesn't show the same kind of water movement at Associates Road. At Associates Road, the water was actually
Go
squirting through.
through. Mario?
No, I like the open face design on the revetment to absorb wave energy. That's better than filling those spaces up with concrete or whatever, so that's a good design. This seems to me to be a repair, but not an enlargement of pre-existing licensed structures, unless I got that wrong, Mike?
That's correct.
That's essentially it, right?
Yes.
Have we heard from DMF yet on this?
Yes.
We'll tell you what DMF said. That's what,
DMF's suggestion, and it's probably because they haven't physically been to the site, is to remove that entire concrete structure.
I didn't hear it.
the DMF suggestion is to remove the entire concrete structure and just build a fixed pier. But we're going to say, thank you for your suggestion, but we're not going to incorporate that.
That seems to be a bit draconian.
Yeah.
Yes, just a tad.
And don't ever say we're unreasonable.
You're unreasonable.
We are? What did you say, Mike?
He challenged me.
You want to remove that concrete pier, Mike?
No. No, that would actually cause much more damage to the environment.
Yes, it would. Yes, it-
We agree with that.
We absolutely agree with that.
Lori, any questions?
Perhaps
No,
Mr.
I wasn't
Suggestion-
able to get down to the
Site,
bottom of the site.
okay. I have some questions, Mike. All the riprap that you're going to pull out
Storm barge.
to the east and on both sides, you're going to replace it basically in the same footprint,
Yes.
right? And are you doing anything with the wooden
No.
pier at the end?
I
You're
did
going to
not.
leave it as it is?
Yes, leaving it as it is.
Okay. That's it. Oh, no, I had one other question, and maybe you said this, but maybe I missed it. Where you're going to take out the concrete pier, which I agree with you, you should take it out.
Yes.
Are you going to, asking for any beach nourishment, or are you just going to let the existing beach sort of accumulate?
Oh, we're taking out the ramp,
Right?
Yeah.
so I think I put a note on there, regrade as necessary. I thought. I had-
Regrade what's there as necessary, but you're not adding any more, is my
Well,
question.
The bottom line is, it's very hard to estimate, because when we dig out, when we remove these and put the toe stones down, we're gonna be bringing material up. So it's extremely difficult to estimate whether or not I need to bring some more material in, but I thought I wrote.
You did.
Would be right?
You did write it
Install
somewhere.
compatible.
So, I mean, if we need fill, it's gonna be minimal, like 100 yards or something like that.
Or, okay.
To me, 100 yards is minimal of water.
I'll remember that, Mike.
100 yards. Got it.
That will come back to haunt you, I trust you.
Well, last time you incorporated all previous testimony I made. in one of my-
With that kind of people.
Jen, do you have any further questions?
No.
This is, for those of you who weren't on the board, and I think Courtney was the only one who was on the board, this pier received an order of conditions a number of years ago for a vastly, in the same footprint, but for a vastly fancier reconstruction. But this should serve the purposes well,
Yes.
should be good.
I was a site officer on that one, too.
Were you? Yeah. So, anybody have any more questions?
We have a DEP number?
Yes.
How long will a repair like this last?
110 years.
No. It,
Roughly.
what I'm thinking about is, I designed a riprap about in the late 70s, and we're just fixing it now. So what's that,
40 years,
35?
35.
So with the right contractor, but we had another one where we had a lousy contractor, and I lasted 5 years.
So who is the contractor on this, or you don't know yet?
I don't know yet, and I cannot identify who was the lousy contractor, for obvious reasons.
He was asking me that.
No.
Could we,
I will.
yes,
I'll move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
I'll second that.
okay, we have motion second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Any more questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to close the hearing and take it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think I've ever seen as short an agenda as this,
Yes, you have. We'll see an even shorter one next week.
even better.
Promises,
Actually,
promises.
Same amount of items.
Seacoast Shores Association, Inc., care of Richard Sett, Seacoast Shores Association, Beach, Falmouth, for permission to conduct beach nourishment along 120-foot section of the associated beach with placement of 500 cubic yards of compatible sand between mean low water and the existing revetment. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I will save any of my comments until after the presentation.
Good evening, Sam.
Good evening. My name is Stan Humphreys. I'm a senior coastal geologist with LEC Environmental Consultant. And I know the commission might not usually see Chapter 91 plans as the plan of record. The association is a little tight on funds, and we thought this was the most economic way to approach the project. So the 3 plans that you have are the existing conditions. The proposed plan is in the middle, and then there are 2 cross-sections as the 3rd plan. Resource areas in the vicinity include land under the ocean, coastal beach, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. This stretch of beach has had a problem for at least the last 10 years with the existence of a stone revetment that encompasses about 2/3 of the site. And while the site's been nourished 2 previous times, they continue to experience erosion in front of that revetment in particular. The previous filing and nourishment attempt, or project, I should say, that was proposed back in 2004 actually went beyond mean low water and into the river. With the change in policies and attitudes, I know of the commission, we have tried to minimize the footprint of the nourishment, but since mean high water is essentially against the revetment, the only way to have a nourishment project is to go into the intertidal area. We've tried to minimize the footprint to the southern 2/3 of the site, and while we will be forcing mean high water seaward, the project is not extending below mean low water. The sediment grain size has been conducted by Bennett Engineering. I provided that material on Friday so that we can get a compatible grain size when it goes to a land-based gravel pit. Dredge material will not be used here, so it will be clean and compatible grain size. materials that, or response that we've gotten from Division of Marine Fisheries prompted me to call them today to explain a little bit of a contradiction where they suggest that there not be any nourishment in the intertidal zone, yet they say if it's going to be in the intertidal zone, follow the beach nourishment regulations. It was explained to me that their position on intertidal zone nourishment is one that's been consistent. That's why it's in the letter, that it really isn't appropriate for this site because there is no way to have the nourishment on the revetment itself, and that they're putting together a task force to change that policy. The other comment made by the division was that they would look to have a lower slope face on the nourishment. That actually is prompted by the need for habitat of the horseshoe crab to mate, and there are no horseshoe crabs in this area. So Eileen Feeney conceded that she thought this project could go forward, that the time of year placement is important to Division of Marine Fisheries, so the work would not occur between April 1st and June 15th. Finally, I guess the other point to make is that because the association has gone through at least 3 phases of full permitting, Chapter 91, Corps of Engineers, wetlands, they were hoping to have this project go forward for the first year with 500 cubic yards. At the end of the 3rd year, reassess the possibility of having another 500 cubic yards, depending on the erosion, depending on storm activities. And so in total, over the 3-year period, we're in essence asking for 1,000 cubic yards. But that would be done in phases. Again, if at the end of 3 years we haven't had any storms, let's say 100 yards disappears, we'd only be coming back in for 100, working within the same footprint shown. I will take questions.
Okay. Jen?
Stan, that additional 500 yards would be subject to probably the commission's review and approval, and that would mean that you should do annual beach profiles out there. I think you did that the last time for this particular beach, did you not? Did Coastal and Ocean do an annual survey out there?
No, I believe that Emily has only required photographs on an annual basis,
Okay.
low and high.
Probably have to do a survey if the association would like that additional 500 cubic yards. But that's fine, they can do it.
Yes, Stan, it'll be a survey, and you'll have to have it, give us volume calculations.
Okay,
I mean, otherwise,
right. Where's the data?
yeah.
Well, you're gonna need a
I know,
baseline.
so I know it's
You're gonna need a
inconvenient that I ask
baseline.
people for that, but,
No.
okay, Jen? Do you want to just put that down, beach profiles and volume calculation? Is that it, Jen? Lori?
No question.
No question. Mario?
Stan, would you say that, hi, how you doing?
Good,
It's been a
long
while.
time no see.
This seems like such a stopgap measure. That is a giant cemented revetment, and obviously what's happening there, as you know, is the waves are being deflected, and that's lowering the beach profile. I don't know, are you projecting a certain lifespan for this?
Well, the revetment is owned by the 4 landowners
Right.
that it protects. So the association has, very little control, I guess, over that revetment. It is steeper than it should be. I don't anticipate the landowners wanting to remove part of their lawn to lay it back, to take the cement out of the mix, to put more of a rough face to it.
Yeah.
It's just an unfortunate condition that they have to
It's
deal
just
with.
such it's a wall that's literally reflecting
No, you're right.
wave. That's why we don't permit those kinds of things to be built anymore. I mean, you know, it's,
The waves in the area are fairly small because the fetch is pretty limited, but I think the currents at high water moving along that revetment, the friction is there and the removal process is
And
ongoing.
it's a nice narrow part of the bay there. It's right where they used to cross over to the other island.
Yeah, I think that's right off Bayside Drive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
that's
where there
the
used to be
now.
a bridge that went over to Washburn.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll bet those currents, when the tide changes, could be a problem,
Right.
especially in a higher tide.
But on the positive side, I think we've found that there's an overall distribution of that sand on a flood tide to the north and on an ebb tide to the south, and that there's no detrimental impacts of deposition in the water body. I
Well,
mean,
that was going to be one of my questions.
Geez, you get
one of the,
kudos, it was the,
one of the more frightening aspects
Yeah.
of the
I could-
proposal
I could tick these off.
back in 2004 was the fact that a gentleman here has a pier and moors his boat right on that area. And we were thinking if there's any potential sedimentation that would require him to dredge, we wouldn't want to see that. And he was fine with the project,
We wouldn't want to see it either.
and you wouldn't want to see it. But it didn't happen, so he was happy with the project.
Yeah, and it's
Went
really
forward.
the only beach, the only substantial beach, kind of beach for a bunch of people.
Right, it is.
Mario, any other?
no, it's just,
Mike?
Well, a follow-up. Where do you think the sand went? You tell me where it didn't go. Where do you think it went?
He said it went up, just upstream and just downstream.
And
Up with-
it's in the river, because it didn't go
Yeah,
to
for
an
sure.
adjacent
That-
beach
that-
or any other barrier beach or dune. So it gets to be a wider portion of the river here, depending on, I mean, we didn't do any current studies, but it could probably be within quarter, a half a mile, north and south of the site, just evenly distributed everywhere. So Mike was saying earlier how 100 cubic yards is minimal. 500 is not that much more when you're looking at this type of a water body.
I think we heard that we'd get 5 times nothing is what we're trying to be sold here. I guess one of my guiding principles is sitting there is do no harm. And somebody benefits and nobody gets hurt, then it's okay. But if we're proving something that is potentially, adverse to one of the property, I'm a little slow to raise my hand and say, this is a good idea. So that's my, you're walking around on the site, I couldn't see where, there was a delta forming or whatever the right word is. So I guess I'm comfortable with what you're telling me, but for the record, that's where I sit.
Mike, I think your concerns maybe alleviated with additional surveys out there so that you know where the sand is going next year if they want to put it.
At least we know where it's not going.
At least you know where it's not
Not-
going.
yeah,
Going,
that's
not
it.
going.
We'll never
it's
know where
there.
it's going, we'll know where it's a little bit like the grout.
Because I would be very unhappy if we had to see a private dredging project because of this. It just, staff could not support something like that, so.
But your testimony is that that was a concern before, but the person, you've done this before.
Correct.
And it didn't
Okay.
pool at his dock.
Exactly.
Was that a dock to the south?
yes,
Yes.
correct.
I think I'm the person you're talking about.
Oh,
Ah,
and you haven't noticed any decrease or
No, it's,
decrease
Actually,
in
if
depth at the end of your dock? And you have to come up and tell us who you are.
would you like me to come down? or-
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Problem?
Oh, sure.
All right. You can stay because there might be more questions.
Please stay. I'm Bill Fay. I'm the one that owns land to the north. I'm the closest dock to the beach.
North.
Are you,
We were talking about the southern dock.
South is towards the vineyard.
Yes.
yeah.
Correct.
That's Mr.
Well, there is-
Copley.
That would be Mr. Copley.
Yep.
Correct. In front of my yard, in front of my dock, there's
Where are
been
you,
some
Mr.
slight, very,
Fay?
You're to the
He's
north?
just to the
to the
north.
north, yeah. Yeah, well, I assume if the tide comes in and out, you get it on both sides, correct?
Yep, it goes both ways.
Yeah. And I'd say that there hasn't been any adverse really effect to mine. You see some slight, movement all tides, all times of the year. Right now, you get high tides, higher tides in the fall than you do, and it hasn't been adversely affecting me around the dock or anything. And I'd say the same is probably true for Mr. Copley on the other end, I'd suggest.
How long have you owned your property, sir?
I think this is going to be our 17th summer.
17th, okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, I've been
So you were
through,
here for the first project, obviously.
correct,
Okay.
yeah, on that. So,
Thank you.
I think my last statement on this is it's very important for the people to have a place to recreate.
Right.
The beach is extremely important to the people. I have a private beach. I don't need the public beach next to me.
Yeah, but-
It's important for the rest of the residents that they have one. It's an important project.
Yeah, it's unlikely that the sand would, given the situation here, would pool in one area.
Right. It goes everywhere.
The board has
He's
to
correct.
balance all of this, sir, environmental,
Yeah.
recreation, as well as, the recreation for the boaters coming in and out that channel. That's a tight area there where that beach is,
It is.
with Charles River, Hill River East, traffic coming into CPET.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get a little dicey over there.
Can, especially when boats go
So, I
fast.
mean, the board understands, the staff understands that this is important to the association, but they do need to balance a lot of different competing interests.
Oh, I agree. I agree. It's a beautiful area.
It is a nice area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
Some of the wind was taken out of my sail. Fortunately, that your testimony satisfied some of my inquiries.
Was this a negative boat that had that sail?
No, a very curious boat. The profile was what was concerning me, because it seemed fairly steep, but you satisfied that with your testimony. And as our administrator had mentioned, balancing this off, this is a multiple family use. And that does weigh heavily with me. I entertain that with a full heart. And looking at this, and I'm trying to think, it's like a thumb on a garden hose. You just got so much rushing both in and out, that I think that this, when you determine your amount, after you get 2 full seasons, and the second season is when everybody notices, geez, this is really shortening up. And it's going to be your profiles that are going to determine the amount that you're going to request for the second application of sand. Right, so the baseline,
After 3 years.
well, yeah, but what if it was a second season and it's
I see
really
what you're
bad? There was a storm event that was like, holy crap, we really need to do something, because the spring of this third year, we're not gonna have anything left if the winter's even halfway rough. So that's where the potential extra 500 yards is gonna be in a 3-year period. That's how I'm seeing this, is that the reality, the association gets together and says, first year, it's great, the kids love it, everybody's in and out, and it's great. Second year, pretty much so, but then that second half of the season, fall and winter, wow, the spring of the third year, wow, what the hell happened? Potentially, you could come in for another 500 yards. That's how I understand this.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what the request
And
is.
so that could be 1,000 yards total. I just want to be really clear on that. That's all I got.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Tommy?
I'm not opposed to it. I agree that it's a good idea to look at the profiles and see where it's going after the first 500, see how it goes. I hope it lasts a long time and they get a lot of use out of it, but just check back before you make it 1,000, make sure it's not having a negative impact on anyone or the public channel. That's it.
Court.
How much of, do you have any sense about how much of the erosion occurs there and the loss of beach and so forth is a function of the boat traffic?
I wouldn't be able to comment on that. Don't have enough information. Didn't research that.
And it's a busy area, of course, but if you're asking for rates of erosion
That's,
due
Yeah,
to
no,
boat traffic,
I
that's
understand.
gonna be tough.
I'm sort of
That's a
looking at
factor.
this thing long term, saying, you know, okay, so they throw this in there and then it's, you know, boats go up and down for 3 years and it's gone. And you're back, and where does it go?
I think it's a factor, but it's not nearly
Yeah,
as
yeah.
much of a factor as the fact that that's a narrow area and the water going on the tides rushes
Yeah,
through.
you can see Pitt River right there.
Yeah, in other words, that's
It's a little
more,
dicey.
that's more
That's
of
a,
an issue. than
that's a
it was.
bigger,
Okay.
Maybe some aggressive no-wake signs.
There are no wakes.
There are.
There you go.
Be an excellent idea. I think it would be nice to see a sign as you came through the knot saying this is a no-wake area all the way to.
that's a great idea, but you should go to waterways.
Yeah,
That's,
a call
that's
for
out of our,
yourself.
that's out of our purview.
Isn't there a no-wake one right near the beach?
There is
In that
one.
corner? There is a
There
no-wake
is
one.
one. But funny enough, people look at one, but no-wake means.
Oh, yes.
But I actually have a meeting with Greg tomorrow on something else, and I'll tell him we had this discussion tonight.
and we're on camera.
It doesn't hurt.
It would be very helpful,
Yeah.
all the way down.
I would be remiss in not asking you whether you sampled for any invertebrates in the intertidal there.
We did a more formal sampling in 2006, that last application.
And
There were no shellfish, no eelgrass, no,
I'm interested in smaller things
and
like
myofauna
Cumasians.
size. I'd have to go back and take a look at that report, off the top of my head.
Could
I
you,
can't remember.
Do you want to roll that?
yeah, roll it in. I'm not, it wouldn't preclude me from approving this, but if you did it, I'd like to look at it. So I could just come in, Jen,
Okay.
and look at that. If we have annual beach profiles at the same time each year and a calculation of the volume, that will give us some sense of what's happening here. Obviously, how rapidly it's going to move is going to depend on
So
if there
the
are storms, et cetera.
We'll know that after you place the sand, they'll need to do an immediate survey. I know that you said that they're trying to save some funding. I know that association has other interests right now, but that's something they will need to do.
You're the controlling board.
Well, that's in their own best interest, too. It gives you a baseline so that,
They know
from
how
here
much
forward,
sand, yeah.
that's on the record, and it's not going to be, this is what we established type of thing.
Another question?
Yeah, this is a comment. I don't like asking for data I don't know what I'll do with, but I think you people will be coming back, and I want to be able to make a decision in the future. So that's what the request for profile.
Understood.
And volume
And
calculation.
volume, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's part of it.
Okay, any other questions? Then do I hear?
Close it. I'd like to make a motion to close it and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Motion on the table is to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Very enjoyable to come and
Thank you.
present a project that's not controversial.
It's better on both sides of the table.
Yeah, you did a nice job, thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Okay, vote enforcement, Eel Pond Realty LLC, 87 Water Street for digging, clearing, and altering wetland resource areas and in buffer to resource area as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00. Well, I think the only,
Madam Chairman, yes, this is the issue at Water Street. In regards to the drainage, there was some concern about the drainage off the newly installed brick patio at the Woods Hall Market. This board needs to make a determination. I know a couple of you went out to look at, the drainage patterns out there. Had some good insight, just need a mechanism to, obviously, they do need to install some sort of drainage out there. I know the discussion was of a hand-dug dry well. The only thing the board does need to vote on is whether or not you want to require a notice of intent or have the work done through an enforcement issue. Either way, a plan could be presented and reviewed at a public session if you so chose.
okay, well, I'm going to tell you that I revisited after our hearing and looked at some of the things that those of you who went out there during the rain mentioned. And revisiting it, I would be comfortable with this just under an enforcement order.
Does that get recorded, any of the conditions under that get recorded on the deeds?
Jen?
You could have the enforcement order recorded, yes.
Now, when we started this discussion, you said that it would require a plan to be presented to the board.
If you, yeah, usually
If
if
you
it's done
choose.
under an enforcement order.
Would like to see
Absolutely.
a plan in front of the board. If we do this mechanism underneath the enforcement order, it'll expedite the process for the applicant,
Yes.
for the market. However, I would also like to satisfy other inquiries.
comment.
Public comment on the plan, so that that second part of everything that's in there can be somewhat satisfied.
It's really the decision of the board which way you want to.
Yeah, well, that
require
We
seems-
a
can,
plan.
we can
That
do it
seems
with
like a-
public, with a plan and public comment?
Yeah.
Without a full notice?
Yep,
Yes.
That sounds great.
Underneath the
as an
enforcement order,
as an enforcement order.
which would be in
Where they'll
perpetuity
come
with
back
the...
in with a plan, so.
Yes, to
Yep.
present to us.
Yeah, we can do something like, submit plan, review, with commission at public hearing, and we could
Public comment.
label it under your agenda as, review enforcement order condition.
The
That's very
one thing that we had made mention was some volume is going to be necessary for that. Some volume, not just a typical, just something you buy at Home Depot and throw a little dry well in there, but something that has calculations and capacity.
Well, if they give us a plan, the plan has
Right,
to
and
include
Exactly, I
What-
want that to be clear as well.
what the size of the dry well is and what
And
the
that-
sizing is based on.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
So there has to be stormwater calculations and all that.
correct.
Yeah,
And I assume that if the plan comes to us for review, we can insist that certain things be changed if we feel that this has.
It has to satisfy the commission.
yeah, it has to satisfy us.
Yes.
It would be held in a public meeting, so this board would have the discussion. It could be reviewed. You could or could not take public testimony. That's completely up to you.
Right.
It wouldn't technically be a hearing, it would be a public meeting.
The
Right.
public meeting for this, I would like to have that
Absolutely.
absolutely to satisfy other people's inquiries that had, that felt slighted by the process in the past, this not having a notice of intent for the activities that we're in. I think this is a way to satisfy that, so that we can.
Yeah, and that's our choice, and
Yes,
that's how we can, how you can write it up.
The staff will write it however the board would like.
Well, that's how
Okay.
we're hearing. Court, oh, Mike,
I would be disappointed if those plans weren't shared with the butters before they came to us? We're gonna require plans, there's nothing that says that, you know.
Well, the plans will be submitted at least a week before this public meeting.
Well,
You could put a date on the plan and say it needs to be submitted by this date. And
Right.
anybody can come in.
Then they
and
can
review
have
that.
access to it at.
Okay.
As
Would the
far as
butters
the-
get notification?
As far as
No,
the butter
because it's an enforcement-
notification and everything like that, if the board wanted to go that route, then you would have to do this under a notice of
You
intent.
couldn't require them.
No.
Yeah, no, it won't be, no butter notification is necessary for the enforcement order, however, but it'll be advertised at a public meeting, and that parties that were interested, genuinely interested, I have a feeling would already know that would be available to
Require
them.
the plan be submitted by a certain date.
okay. I think I can
Which
live with
date
that.
would you like? So if it's out in the open,
Yes.
which
That's
date
my-
would you
my-
guys like the
I-
plan submitted by?
January 15th.
And when will we hold it there? A week later or 2 weeks later?
Well, if it's submitted on January 15th.
Or submit it on the 8th and have it on the meeting on the 15th.
Madam Chairman?
Oh, it's over the holidays. Submit it on the
The
15th.
8th would be kind of
Yeah.
tough, given the holiday schedule.
Yep.
I would do it by the 15th, and then you could review it on the 22nd.
22nd.
Is that enough time for other interested parties?
I would imagine so. I feel that we've made accommodations as best we can at this point in time.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to accept this enforcement order to a public meeting.
And I
With
mean,
the-
it'll be,
and-
sorry, Tom, it'll
Good.
be a full plan. I mean, it's gonna be an
Right.
absolute full survey plan for you guys,
Yes,
Okay.
okay? If that's what you want, I don't want there to be.
Yeah.
any-
yes,
Okay.
that's what we
With
want.
the calculations
So that
and
we
the
have,
sizing.
and one of the important things is to have,
An existing conditions plan.
thank you,
Existing conditions plan on the market.
so that there's now a baseline with, sure, my motion is to have this enforcement order presented with plans at a public meeting, plans due January 15th. And
The plans will include
the plans will include existing
calculations,
calculations, site conditions,
and calculations
for the
and
stormwater.
justification for the size dry well.
Should it be,
And,
should it be
In justification for the sizing of the dry well.
yes, that would be exactly what I was going to say.
public testimony and comment is invited? As opposed to,
Well, that's a public meeting thing anyways.
is it?
Well, in
Yes.
public hearings, you're required to take testimony from the public. Public meeting, it's at our discretion, but
With-
you're saying that we
yes.
will take it.
Yeah, and I think that should be so noted.
So noted. Public hearing, public testimony would be allowed on comment of this action.
I second that motion.
Are you with us, Susan? All right. Does anybody else have anything to add? We have a motion and a second on the table. Anybody in the audience have anything to say?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board.
Good evening.
Attorney Christopher Crane, I represent the abutters at 91 Water Street. Certainly appreciate you taking note of this tonight, and I don't really have any objection to the process that's been described tonight by the board. You know, I certainly written the dates down, so I know when they'll be, so we'll maybe have comment. As far as the process, I don't necessarily want to have to, on the 22nd, come here with new information to say, we have an issue with this. If after taking the plans, if we submit comments to the commission in advance of the 22nd, would that be appropriate?
We could do a review on the 29th, and then that would give you time to submit comments
Yeah.
if you prefer that day.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be appropriate tonight or not, as far as the applicant was concerned, because I had talked about some pitching other than just a drainage. And I do have before and after photos that kind of show that the brick patio is a little bit more raised and pitching towards my client. So I just want to make sure that that's addressed, in advance, so it wouldn't necessarily require multiple hearings on the commission.
Can you share those
Sure.
pictures with your butter and his engineer?
Yeah, I can absolutely do
All
that.
right, so if we can move that on.
And I'm happy to share those with the commission when appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So we're changing the period between the plan submission and the hearing?
Oh,
Up to you guys.
we have not, the 22nd was never voted on. The 15th is the one that I'm saying. What we do with that,
Yeah, I mean, there's
Submittal.
no reason. We'll have the public hearing on the
Yeah.
29th.
Yeah, so that gives 2 weeks for these people to come. That's
Yeah,
what
that's fine.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, but if he has comments, what he's saying is he'd like to get them a week ahead of time, which we appreciate, because
Yeah.
you understand what it's like when you're sitting on this
I
side.
do, I absolutely do. So I appreciate it. I didn't know if there was a question.
I have a question.
Yeah,
What is the main issue for you with this patio? I mean, if, just a simple, what's going on from that side?
From my client's perspective, it's really a drainage issue, and I don't know that it's necessarily just from the roof runoff of it. As I say, I do have some before and after photographs that show what it looked like previously and with the patio, and it certainly looks like it's raised, and then the patio pitches, towards my client's property.
And that elevation and adding those stones has created a drainage problem for your client? Is that your
According to my
position?
client, yes.
Okay,
So.
okay, thank you.
That's my client's contention. And there was one thing I brought up at the last hearing. I don't know if it's a concern or not. The work to the seawall and whether that requires Chapter 91 or any type of that review.
Okay.
So those are really my only comments. Generally speaking, I think the project itself, other than the drainage issues, really was never objectionable to my client. It's just, that was really.
And unpermitted work is always an issue for us, too.
Right. So, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Record time meeting, I guess.
well, no, we've had meetings even shorter than this. Hard to believe.
We've had some that have been a lot longer.
Okay,
Thank you.
we have, what did we do what?
Where do I record all this on?
Down here.
Down there?
Yeah.
Move that.
We have a motion and a second on the table to do an enforcement order as given in the
Described.
motion, as described. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. 25 votes, orders of conditions. Are we ready for this? Do you have
It's
it?
a little
Do you
dog
have it?
off of Luciano Patella Way. It's going to be finding regarding natural heritage and the Tidewater Mucket.
You're gonna screw it into the bottom of the pond.
Mucket.
It's a mussel, right?
Is it freshwater mucket?
It's a mussel.
Big state listed freshwater mucket.
Tidewater mucket.
So in fact, there are shellfish in the pond.
I'm well familiar with the mucket.
Jen, there are shellfish in the
Yep,
pond.
and just conditioned to do the, what would you guys call them, the little PVC pipe sleeves?
right, the sleeving.
Sleeving,
Yeah, I
Yep.
remember, Tom, you said you
Yep.
could reach in, pull your shirt up, and pull all the, go by the
Yep.
sleeve, and
Get
then
it out of there.
off the thing, and the little floats.
yep.
Okay.
The sleeves, the floats, finding on the Tidewater Mucket, and other than that, storage of those,
Gonna be up on the deck.
floats in the
Yeah,
off-season
where
on
he-
the staircase.
Yep.
Which is, I was wondering how they were gonna wrestle them.
They're not, they're
down.
aluminum.
No, no,
They're
no.
not-
Yeah.
Yeah, but
On
it's
that
much
first
better. They could just
platform.
do it and tie them.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I'd like to make a motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
Motion second on the table. Any other questions? Okay.
Oh, wait. Lori, Mike, Betsy, Tom, Tommy, Core,
Everybody but Mario.
everybody but Mari.
We have a motion on the table to accept the order of conditions as discussed on 25 Luciano Botello Way. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Well, this is it's a motion to adjourn, but I also would like to say,
Merry Christmas.
I will not be here next week, and I want to wish all a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you
Merry
very much.
Christmas.
Christmas to you, Tom.
We need a second on that.
Merry Christmas.
Second.
Okay. Second on the motion to adjourn and to wish us, each of, and all of us, a Merry Christmas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.